Welcome to Social Selling Simplified. I'm your host, Ashley Shaw, and in today's episode, I'm diving in with Bria Evenson. Now, Bria is a health and fitness coach, but she's also an expert on hormones. And she puts the pieces together on why women are struggling to lose weight. She shares the things she's learned, diving into the hormone research that she was faced with when she found that her body may be going through menopause at 38 years old. And she decided that it was time to research for herself. And she was amazed at the results that started to happen just by tuning into her cycle, into her hormones, and not just relying on advice from doctors, but more so just paying attention to her own body and doing some research for herself. So I'm so excited for this episode today. It's about time that we start talking about the female body more in depth and how a one-size-fits-all workout program and nutrition program doesn't always serve us.
You're listening to the Social Selling Simplified podcast. Stick around if you too are obsessed with learning things that actually work and believe that success leaves clues. We're all about identifying results-producing roadmaps and getting super clear on how to scale and grow your online business. From part-timer to president, social selling expert Ashley Shaw will help you connect the dots and take the guesswork out of what works to grow a social selling empire. It's time to hear from social selling legends, listen in on truthful conversations, and learn the best tips and tricks to reduce the marketing overwhelm so you can build the social selling business of your dreams. If you're ready to go all in, no holding back, and build the business you've always wanted, you're in the right place. Here's your host, educator, social selling guru, and fitness industry OG, Ashley Shaw.
So I launched a exclusive membership community called SHE. So I've always had my SHE community. I've tried a lot more around this discussion of why women aren't losing weight, why women over 35 are like, we've never more than ever been inundated by weight loss and fitness and food and health. And yet we're more stuck than ever. And that was really one of my big struggles in the last 3 years is that I love fitness and, I loved working with women, but not only was I having all these women like being really overwhelmed, like I'm too overwhelmed to have success, whether it's in fitness or business, not seeing results. And then I started to feel that in myself in the last couple of years. And I was just like, I was at my wit's end. I'm like, something's got to give. And that was when, to make a long story short, I went to the doctor and I was like, I'm in menopause. Like I'm 38. I'm certain this was like, everything's whack. And like nothing that was working is working. I don't feel like myself, something's wrong. And she was lovely, but doesn't, doctors aren't, nutritionists or hormone specialists. Yeah. And she's like, you're not like, you're the picture of health. You're fine. Like she asked me a bunch of these questions and I was so disheartened in a way when I left that I was like, something is wrong and I'm not getting the answers. And that was, so I dove into like mega research. I got my certified integrative health nutritionist program. I did like a hormonal health, female hormonal health. And that was when I really learned that ultimately the female body is very stressed. And when our body is in stress, it can't lose weight. And to simplify it, like we're all living under stress right now, but women are very stressed, like between being a mom and working and juggling the emotional labor that women all carry more than men these days. And, and then you add a pandemic on top of that, we're asking Olympic levels of output of our body and we're treating them like go-karts, not Olympians. So when we are living with cortisol, it's the moment cortisol gets released into the body, the liver has to abandon all other responsibilities, but it shoves all the estrogen and extra stuff that it's supposed to be dealing with into fat storage and deals with the cortisol. And if we're always living in cortisol, which we are because we're pushing harder in workouts and we're trying to eat less on top of the stress that we're already there, we're just stressing our bodies out more. So all of this I'm learning and I was like, okay, I need to teach women how to lower that stress in their bodies so that they can pick up workout programs and actually get results. Because otherwise they're just going to push themselves harder and get fatter and be miserable, which is what I was seeing anyway in the industry. So that's what SHE is. It's an online membership, and how I've been social selling into it to try to apply it to your listeners is is, as I said, really driving that conversation starter in my social posts. But then once a month, having like a free masterclass that I drive people to in the SHE community, that I teach them about, about this concept, like about what is happening in their bodies, why it's happening, and how we take it to, how the beginnings of the how, and then move them into the SHE membership. And it's just worked really well. And it's been such a joy. That's how it feels. I feel like I'm making an impact in an area that I care about, and I'm working with women, and it's been effortless-ish.
It just gives me all the goosebumps hearing that, like, just one, sometimes when you hear a problem that like, deep down, like how much hurt comes from that problem. Like one, I feel that on so many levels, like all the hormone stuff. I've been doing a lot of research for myself right now on that. So I totally feel that. And then on the other side, I like, wow, what a lovely way to not only help people, but I can see on the business side how like, it's so nice when you finally find that thing that just like that funnel starts working, and like you're serving people, you get lit up doing it. And it's like the flywheel just like keeps going,
Yeah. And it feels good. Like I'm not even concerned. Like for a lot of years when I was trying to figure out funnels that worked, I still had this weird concern in my belly of like properly serving after the sale. How do am I going to live up to what am I going to be able to serve these people? Because I don't think I loved how I was serving, Yeah. And so finally having something that I feel like I 150% stand behind, and it was the answer, has already become the answer to so many people's solution. Like to get messages in your inbox that are like, I don't know, like I needed this, like, all those great messages that you get, everything from like, I'm only watching your free videos and my life has changed. Like those things are the things that are like those flagpoles that are like, I'm on the right path, So I'm over the moon thrilled with what I'm doing, with how business is going, with understanding it a little bit more. And I'm still in the organic phases of it. Like I haven't even really I haven't stepped out into the area of, ads or things like that. But right now I'm just really perfecting this funnel, as well as I can. And it's brought me so much joy.
That's amazing. So cool. I'm so excited for you. Congratulations.
I feel like all our work, leads to this. Like everything you go through leads to it, right? But it just took longer than everything always takes longer than you'd like to figure out, right? And then when it comes, you're like, oh, that was worth it. Like it was
100%. And it's like, it's just such a different feel when you're in that sweet spot of like, everything feels easy. It's so hard to explain, I think, before you get there, that like, it doesn't have to be that hustle. It doesn't have to feel like it's so hard. Like it can just click, but it's like you said, it's just being able to work through the other stuff to get to that like pot of gold on the other side,
Yeah. It's very interesting. You're right. Like the more I think of it, when I think about, even in the network marketing industry, that niche piece of, finding your, like the conversation that you want to start that, ultimately ends in the result of these products or whatever because I still have that in my background. That's not my forefront of my energy anymore, but that is such a critical part. And yet it's hard to find. Like it is. Yeah. Like you said, that's the hustle in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Once you get past that, it no longer feels like a hustle. Like you say, it's because you get to live in the pocket of energy for you, and you wake up and you're excited, and you go to bed and you're excited, and it's much easier to continue to pump out output because you're moving so much faster. That flywheel, as you said, that was a good example.
Yeah. It's like that alignment. It's like that. That's why I love that quote about like alignment over hustle. That's what it is for me, is like, it's like all of a sudden you're out of, I need to get there. Because you're just living in this like total alignment. Everything feels easy and it just works. Like the business just starts like compounding itself when that happens, I think.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So good. So good. The hormone thing, I want to talk about this for a sec, because it's been like on my mind so much. And it's interesting that you say about this, the conversation you had with this doctor, because after, they're all over during Coco's appointments, right? They're like, okay, how much does she weigh? What's her head circumference? Like they do all these things. And then for the mom, of course, they're like, you feeling good? You feeling good? Like everything's good? Like, and you're like, yep, yeah, like, yeah, finger guns. Yeah.
I don't know, I can't remember yesterday. So
Yeah, 100%. And there's been a couple of like conversations I've tried to have with my sister, Jenna, that's the doctor, like, like what does like postpartum look like? And, and it's like this fluffy, like, well, there's like, baby blues. I think that's what they call it. I think that you're like, I don't feel like that describes what I'm feeling right now. It's not just like
a pretty cloud. No,
yeah.
That is not.
Yeah. But, after realizing that like what I thought would be just like a tweak in a different direction with life has really been like, someone just cranks the steering wheel in a totally different direction. Like, I don't know why I didn't think about, things like how much of a difference it would be to go from I work in my business, I find it fulfilling, I'm loving it, to all of a sudden, like those are now bookends. Like my business is not the majority of what I do anymore. Those are just bookends to what I do otherwise. And there's so many amazing parts of it, of course, but it's like the other stuff that we don't talk about, the stuff that you're like, whoa, how long does this go on? I was chatting with a friend of mine on the podcast actually, and she's like, oh yeah, great. You're past the 30 day or the 90 days of darkness. I'm like, why did no one tell me about those first 90 days where you're like, are we going to survive this? Like, how does anyone have any additional children, let alone like after one?
Honestly, you know what I was so surprised no one told me about was what it was like to have sex again, like after nobody talks about it. It is like losing your virginity again. It is awful.
Yeah.
You're already, oh my gosh, there's milk coming out of me. And like the last thing that passed through this hole was like go the other direction and giant. Like, and yet now I am in it. This is awful. Like I don't even want, I agree. I'm like, who are these people who have these Irish twins? I'm like, what is happening?
Oh man, that's crazy town. That's crazy town. So it's an interesting thing to be juggling all that. And then also know that, I kept looking up, like trying to figure out what are the things that could be contributing to how I'm feeling. Cause I feel like all of a sudden I can't get anything done. I am a hot mess. Like when it comes to having conversations, like I feel like I could fly off the hand. Like my patience level is just not the same. So the more I'm digging into this, the more I'm realizing hormones, like this is what keeps coming up over and over again. So a super interesting conversation about how this ties into women, not being able to lose weight. There's all these other times hormones are just at play, and there's so many crazy things that impact them. So you were saying cortisol is going to be one of them for sure that's playing and impacting you.
Yeah.
What other things?
Great question. Great thing. And my pocket of expertise really lives in the like postpartum. So not even like directly postpartum, but so there's a lot of great information around the direct after that I can certainly recommend. But one of the biggest reasons, a couple things. In this day and age, women are more stressed out than ever, and they're like physically stressed out. Not like mentally, we all know we're stressed. More stressed out than ever, as I was saying before, because we have more equality in career than ever before. And yet we have more emotional labor responsibilities than ever before. That is very unequal. We're more inundated than ever before with social media that is always there telling us to be thinner and skinnier and wrinkly less. And you know what I mean? Like wrinkly, you know what I mean? Constant. Like you can't move through a day without being hit up by it. And for you and where you're at, it's probably like lose the baby weight, like that's what you're being hit up with. And I'm being hit up with like, fab after 40 and like Botox, like those are the things that I see. Mm-hmm. And on top of it all, never before have we had more processed food, more chemical, preservatives in our food and exposure to that environmentally than ever. So I would argue, with all due respect to our grandmothers and mothers, women have never been more stressed out. Mm-hmm. And then, so our 4 health pillars, I call them, our rest, our mindset, our movement, and our nutrition are all out of whack. And they certainly are after having kids. Mm-hmm. And the big issue that I feel like is kind of the straw that's really the breaking the camel's back, but also the answer to our solution is this concept that I learned called your infradian rhythm. And that is everybody operates with this circadian rhythm, which is your 24-hour hormone cycle. It is the cycle that men and post-menopausal women, although I would argue that a little, and what, pre-puberty people work off of, where we wake up in the morning, we have sort of that burst of, cortisol and adrenaline to get us going in the morning, testosterone starts to wane in the afternoon, hence where happy hour came from, because we're more social in the afternoon, and then melatonin hits and we go to sleep. And that's all well and good, especially when you don't have kids waking you up in the night, right? We've got this, well, women of reproductive age, and I would still say beyond, and if you've had a, hysterectomy, for anyone who's, watching who might not bleed, this still applies to you. We don't have a 24-hour, we have that cycle. We also, this is why women are multitaskers, we have two hormone cycles. We also have a 28-day infradian rhythm. And that is the ebb and flow of our estrogen, of our testosterone, our progesterone. It's also the ebb and flow of our metabolism and the cortisol that we naturally get. So the world operates on this 24-hour cycle, and we operate on a 28-day cycle, but nobody talks about that. Nobody honors it. Nobody recognizes it. Work's not set that way. Workouts aren't set that way. In fact, the majority of fitness is really tested on, fitness programs are tested on either women who are on birth control, so they're not ovulating, so they don't have that 24-hour cycle, or postmenopausal women or men. Not a lot. Why? Because the rest of us don't quite fit very well into the results, which makes sense because it's not the right thing for us. And ultimately, the answer of it is that we can't, our bodies, the 24-hour circadian rhythm operates in that we can wake up and do the same activities, eat the same heavy workout, like the same type of workout every day. It really lends itself to that. The 28-day rhythm absolutely does not. From one part of your cycle to the next, our brain chemistry changes 25%. So no wonder we feel like one person 1 week and then an entirely different 2 weeks. Like, you can be in the spring of your cycle, in your follicular phase, where your estrogen is on the rise, and be like, I can take on the world. And 2 weeks later, you're like, what the hell was I thinking? I can't even tie my shoes. And that's the wave that we deal with. And when we honor that, when we move in flow with this cycle, recognizing that, we have great capabilities, we can actually accomplish a massive amount of things in the first half of our cycle. And then we can turn inwards a little and recover in the second half. But it's totally out of alignment with how the world has taught us to be, how workout programs tell us to be, how nutrition plans tell us to eat the same every single day. And that's really what's causing even more stress, and then keeping us from being able to get out of that stress. Have this flow of hormones that are different, and no one's talking.
Yeah. Interesting that you have brought that back up. I did an interview with Cassandra Wilder, and she has a podcast. It used to be called Goddess Ceremony. Now it has a different name, but we did this episode where we talked about that there are different times based on your cycle of different work you should be doing.
Yes,
so it only makes sense that your workouts and your nutrition would follow suit to that. So it's so interesting.
Yeah, there is research, and there are now women and voices coming out with research and studies on this, but I feel like it needs to be talked about everywhere, because we still have people all over the map. Because the issue I think is that if we were all operating in bodies that were in homeostasis with a really strong, fundamental, low stress area, then we could pick up things like intermittent fasting or workout programs. And we all have at different stages in our life and seen great results. But when we move particularly into parenthood, when all of a sudden, you don't get to control your sleep, or someone else is controlling your sleep, they're controlling when you get to eat, they're controlling your stress levels, because now you are stressed about them and you think about them. Now all of a sudden, a lot of our control is outside of our control. And so we're living in this stressed out time. Add on top of that, this pandemic that we're in, and just general life, as you head into our age box, and I'm older than you, but, we now have this sandwich area where we have aging parents and, young kids. And that's just a lot. So we're not living in these bodies of steady state homeostasis. We just aren't. So then you try to add stress to your body by working out or eating less, which can be great if you're ready for that stress, but it just messes with it further. And then what happens in the body, to bring it back hormonally, is that when the cortisol, this was your original question, sorry.
No, this is great.
When we're living in a stressful body, We're a stressed out body, and which we all just are. And we're not working in flow, so we're stressing it out even more. Our body has a constant stream of cortisol coming through our veins to handle it, right? To be prepared for the stress. And the liver has to say, okay, estrogen and progesterone and other toxins in the body and metabolism, I can't deal with you right now because I have a red alert over here that I have to handle. And particularly the excess hormones like estrogen get stored into fat for safekeeping, because estrogen can't run rampant through the body. It's going to cause too much trouble. So they say, let's store you in the fat, which is why we get this excess fat that we can't lose. I'll deal with you when I deal with you. And then it's this awful little cycle of like, I can't deal with you until I'm done with the cortisol. The cortisol keeps coming. So the estrogen keeps getting stored because our body keeps cycling. And then we end up with, certainly as you approach perimenopause, which is anyone over 35, we end up with, symptoms like PMS feeling like it lasts all month long, or irregular periods, or sweating, or fatigue, or brain fog, or a million of these things, all these things that have you running to the doctor or Googling, do I have MS, which is not funny, I know, but it's what is happening out there. Like, it's really just a hormone imbalance. And when we deal with it, we get better and we lose weight. And when we don't, then we're just if we say I'm now stressed out and my body is living in this stress, if we don't deal with the rebalancing of our health pillars, anytime we add stress to the body by eating less or doing more, it just makes it worse. It slows your metabolism and amps up your fat storage. That's the issue that we're seeing. And your liver's constantly working. So we have this extreme fatigue as well. And it's like you're just living in a brain fog.
And so what are the best, how would you recommend taking all of that and making some steps towards being able to manage that? It's interesting you said brain fog, because that was the thing that cued me that I was having some hormone stuff going on. Like I'd get this, I'd be having a conversation with Bill, and all of a sudden it was like I couldn't think straight. It was like my therapist described it as like this brain, it's like something washing over your brain. And her recommendation in that moment is like, okay, stop. The one thing that can help you is like breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Because I just would get these moments and I can't think straight. There's no strategy coming out of me whatsoever. So I guess how do you start to unravel this puzzle and start to, put the pieces together?
That's a great question. And, I always very first, recommend that people start tracking their hormone cycle, tracking their infradian rhythm, because knowledge is power, right? When we understand, so that can also tell us very quickly, and I can tell you this, or you can Google, it can tell you very quickly based on when the symptoms are happening, what kind of hormone imbalance you have, or what's really happening. So tracking your period, and specifically what I say is, so day one of your menstrual phase, people also call it your winter phase, but your menstrual phase, when you're actually bleeding, is your first full day of a bleed. And it's not important which one's day 1 and which one's day 28. It's more important that you understand the 4 phases and which phase you're in. But your menstrual phase usually lasts in women 5 to 7 days. That is our winter phase. They call it, it's when we bleed. And it is when our hormones are at their lowest. So it is a very internal time. And when we honor that, we realize, I shouldn't actually be working out during this time. My metabolism is boosted. My cortisol is already elevated. I should be taking this time to, sure, you can walk. Everyone should move their body every day. But you can walk, you can stretch, you can do some yoga, but really you should be taking any extra time you have in there to sleep, to, eat foods that are going to help you process those hormones a little bit better, but to give some rest. And I'll talk about the rest of the phases, but one of my favorite quotes that I heard in my research was, Mother Nature never rushes, but everything gets done. And I love that because it was such a reminder that we should not be hustling all the time. And that's a tough one because particularly in the entrepreneurial industry, that's a real steady heartbeat of hustle, 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 embrace the suck. And it is that is a very man thing to do. And it is not what honors our cycle and our capabilities and our magic as women. So you have your menstrual phase and you have your follicular phase, which is very much like a spring. It's when your estrogen starts coming. I really imagine when the snow's on the ground and there's the first robin and those little tulips are starting to poke through. It's this beginning phase. And probably your friend talked about, it's a great time where or your podcast guest, it's a great time to start thinking about what you want to accomplish in the next few weeks, because you are getting a little bit more energy, you're getting a little bit more clear. This is when our metabolism lessens a little. So it's actually a great time to start a workout program if you're hormonally balanced, if you're in a good space, because you have a bit more coordination and you can handle like the stress a little bit more in your body. And that phase lasts, I think, anywhere from 4 to 7 days. And then we head into, or 4 to 10 days. Then we head into ovulation, which is our summer. It's when all the hormones show up. It's like your party. And like testosterone makes a viewing, estrogen reaches its peak. And for most people, it's a great time. It's our most attractive, magnetic, energetic time, which again, we can be giving more out to the world. It's a very output time. And when we know that, but when we notice in that area, some people who are hormonally imbalanced get a little bit more anxious during that. If you're anxious during that time, it's because you have hormones. You got to learn to plan what to do to process through, like getting this out of you.
Let's talk about progesterone.
As you head into your luteal phase, which is like your fall, and it very much is that, like, it's a great time in life to like wrap things up, right? You're closing things up, like I think about closing up the cottage, like you're, covering the trees, you're crossing your I's or crossing your T's and dotting your I's and all those things in business. And it's a good time to be finishing the intense level of a workout program, for example, and recognizing that your body during the luteal phase and the menstrual phase needs, because your metabolism boosts, it needs upwards of 350 calories more per day, which explains why so many women, they start a workout program and a nutrition plan, and it can go really well for a week or two. And then all of a sudden it's like you can't avoid the cravings. Well, you can't, because your body needs more food in that phase. And what we see, this can be a big time of brain fog because estrogen has dipped for women, and you're just kind of out of it. Like you just don't have that same energy level. So again, it's going back to that quote of Mother Nature never rushes and everything gets done. What it reminds me of is that we need to honor when you live and work and move and flow with your cycle, we need to honor the quieter times so that you protect the energy of the bigger times, because there is strength and power in recovery. And that's what's so important. We can't push our brain, our body at the same level in those two other, in luteal and menstrual, that we can in the others. And that's important. And you need the outward weeks to accomplish things and feel good and feel connected. And then you need the inwards weeks to connect more with you. And when there's a hormone imbalance, what I find is in your follicular and ovulation phase, with a lot of estrogen, we can almost feel a little overwhelmed with ourselves. That's where anxiety can come in. It's like we're very overwhelmed because there's so much happening inside. And whereas the other ones, the world can feel very overwhelming. Like I don't understand what you're saying, or I just feel like it's too much at once coming at me versus the inside out. And that's because of the nature of the hormones. And progesterone is that kind of, and progesterone is very important. It's very important. It's key to ovulation. If you don't have enough progesterone, you won't ovulate. And it's an important part of also keeping the estrogen in check. They have a symbiotic relationship where too much estrogen automatically means not enough progesterone, and vice versa. And that's important to recognize, because it's not like, oh, we can have too much of all the things. It's very easy to become imbalanced if you're, and postpartum is a very stressful, imbalanced time. Historically, it was a time where women's sole focus was the baby. Like that was the whole role. Well, that's just not what happens anymore. And that's okay, but we have to understand that that's not happening, and grab help where we can get in other areas.
So that makes sense. So workout wise, during the menstrual phase, it's like sleep, rest, yoga, like listen to your body during that time. When you move into the spring phase, then at that point, it's like a good time to start a program. What other things, like it almost feels like that's like in your business, it's like a good strategy time.
Yes, it's a great strategy. And the way I have interpreted it and the way I see it is your menstrual time is, as I said, it's that time to turn inwards. It's a great time to take in content or just take in things that are making you feel good. But like if you want to read a good book or learn something, that's a really good time, because then you move into the follicular phase that spring. And that is a perfect time to be planning and strategizing. Because you move into your ovulation, which is an incredible time for you to, again, sell, be magnetic, be out in front of people, pitching, get it out into the world. And then in your luteal phase is when you're like wrapping it up, closing out on the projects I started, and then the cycle starts again. And with fitness, and I find the beauty of tracking, which as I said is sort of that first step, is that personally I notice that I'm better off winding down my workouts, 3 days before my period starts. And you learn this as you track. Because when usually about 4 days into my period, I'm starting to feel that estrogen rise again, and I can start picking up at that point in time. But either way, really, you should be winding down, either finishing a workout, finishing the phase of a workout, or at least moving into the low modifications in a workout. So you're not, again, asking more of your body. You should not be asking more of your body at the end of your luteal and in your menstrual phase. That adds stress to your body, which imbalances your hormones and causes other issues.
So it's a good time to do stuff that is more about going into balance, more about modifications, probably not changing too much with like your eating, like making sure you're eating enough versus like restriction, adding more stress.
Yes, exactly. Nothing that is adding stress to the body during those weeks. And, certainly foods like, fibrous foods that help, move, like broccoli and cabbage and things like that really help. Micronutrients are really important during your luteal and menstrual because you're bleeding them out. So it's really, and that's a big thing after you have a baby. Like you just got rid of a whole bunch of stuff. Your body's trying to like take stock, I think, on what's left in here and what do we need. So yeah, there are specific, and one of my favorite books that I have recently read and loved is In the Flow by Alyssa Vitti. She's like master of this stuff. And she has created very specific work in your flow, eat in your flow, move in your flow kind of concepts. And she talks more deeply about the food as well. So if anyone's looking for an actual book to read, I would highly recommend that one. But she focuses a little bit more in that area of fertility as well, optimized. Yeah. So for anyone in that age bracket. One of the coolest things that I always like to remind people of, or women of, is that the eggs that we ovulate with up in our ovaries are chosen, like the egg that is going to come down the tube and potentially be pregnated or not, this cycle was chosen and impacted by hormones 4 to 6 months ago, which means what is going on in my life 4 to 6, like right now, can impact the stress in my body, the cycle of my hormones in 4 to 6 months. And that's a really mind-blowing thing when you realize it, when you think about what we're going through right now, is to have like a little extra patience and kindness. And why tracking can be so powerful is recognizing that it's not just the environment the egg and your hormones are in right now, it's the impact of what was happening 4 to 6 months ago.
Wow. It's crazy.
Easy, right? When I learned that, I was like, what? That makes a lot of sense. Women's bodies are amazing.
And especially with this like unprecedented time of I don't know if we know the full impacts of everything, socially that is going on for us and being at home. Like it's just the stress of that as well added on top of everything else. It's just, the answer is grace, like for sure. Easier said than done, of course, but definitely feels like a big part of it.
I couldn't agree with you more, but that's just not the world that we are used to. But yeah, and so I think for me, learning this cycle was a great opportunity to see how to live in grace still at the capacity that I'm in, because women are not going to do less. I'm not going to be like, Ash, you need to sleep more and do less. And you're going to be single with your finger. Okay, good luck with that. We have aspirations, and that is a cool thing for women these days, is that we have these great big goals, and but if we don't work in flow with our hormones and we try to follow the male focused way, then we'll always get in our way. It's like trying to shove a round peg into a square hole. We're round. We need to follow the cycle of our hormones and honor that. And as a result, I think our output can be even more incredible, but we have to work in flow with it.
And so what would you say has, since you've been studying all this and learning all this, how has it changed your workouts and your eating and all of the stuff that, that you've been doing?
Oh, I love that question. Immensely it has changed. And therefore, my body has changed. I think what it has taught me is that in order to lower the stress in my body, we have to create space in our body for our body to do what it will do, and in our mind, for our mind to get out of the way a little bit. We think, oh, I can't eat sugar. Sugar makes me fat. It's not the sugar. It's sugar stresses your body out, and then the stress holds on to this. So that's really what most women are dealing with. It's not like really that they're eating too much. Most women are eating not enough, and that's part of the issue. So for me, a couple big things. When I reach the end of my luteal phase and my menstrual phase, I do nothing more than yoga and walk the dog at all. Even if I feel really good, because I think it's important to protect that next step. And anytime I wake up and I feel either I didn't get much sleep for, whatever reason, whatever child was up, or I don't feel great, I do not do an intense workout that day. And so if I'm wanting to do a harder workout, I save those for, the 2-3 weeks, the rest of the month. And that has been, my body has been leaner and fitter and happier than it's been in years, just by working out less. I mean, who knew? It was just, kind of a crazy thing, but it's honoring that cycle and giving myself space to recover. And really, ultimately, if we're not getting 7 hours of sleep minimum, you really have no business trying to ask your body to change. It can't. It needs that time. And that's for optimal recovery, especially if you're lifting weights or things like that. And then food wise, one of the biggest things I stopped doing is having any caffeine on an empty stomach. Caffeine is really hard on the female hormone cycle. A lot of experts talk about cutting it out altogether. I don't really operate in that land, but I just think it's important. I love a coffee. I only have caffeine with breakfast or on a full stomach. So after the meal, whatever. And because that really automatically adds to your imbalance, that stress hormone. And one of the first things that causes an imbalance in our hormones is mismanaged blood sugar. So for most women, again, who are living in stressed out bodies, which is the bulk of us, making sure that you eat within, an hour and a half of waking, and really that you eat every 2.5-3 hours. Because otherwise your body literally, if it's stressed and then you're restrict in some way, it doesn't know what's going on. It literally is well, I got to conserve because who knows what's happening. So I eat more regularly, as well as cutting back on that caffeine. And that's made a huge difference for my energy. And I think and all day long, not just because that was a big issue I was having was brain fog in the afternoon and extreme fatigue. I just felt like my husband would always ask me oh, how are you? I'm I'm tired. I'm just tired. And I didn't feel like I should be that tired based on being as healthy, quote unquote, as I was, So those are the big changes. And as a little bonus that I'll add in there, a big game changer as well is in the morning, having warm water with lemon. I feel like I've heard about this for years, but the lemon, the enzymes, it has to be I always say real organic lemon. Take half of a lemon and squeeze it in, or you can buy real organic lemon juice, not from concentrate. That's a lot easier sometimes. And just put a finger width, in the bottom and add some warm water to it, because the natural enzymes in the lemon are very liver supportive and they're very alkalinizing. So they'll really help your body do what it's going to do. It kind of sets the stage for the day. And then if you're a superfood person, having your superfood or your greens with as the next thing, really layers, it just creates a support foundation in your body to optimize the rest of the day. Makes a big difference in cravings and all that kind of thing.
Oh, I love that.
Those are that's are those eatings, and those alone, without ever even thinking about calories or macros or, how much protein versus how much fat I should, without even thinking about those things alone have made a massive impact in my body and my energy and my health.
Oh, I love that. Such when it comes down to it, like instead of feeling like you're beating your head against the wall because like nothing's working, like I love how it's just actionable steps that like, makes so much sense. Yet I think we just in a way overcomplicate things and think it's a one size fits all sort of, solution when really like this, it just makes so much more sense.
Yeah, I agree. It really is so much more about allowing your body, creating the space to allow your body to do what it's supposed to do. And oftentimes all we need is less hustle. We need less hustle so that our body can settle in to doing what it's supposed to do. And it will release excess weight. It will optimize. It will heal, but only if you give it space. If you keep it in stress land all the time, it's got to deal with that. That's its role. And then of course, stress leads to inflammation, and inflammation leads to disease. So then you end up, down the rabbit hole of where we'll be in another decade as you reach 50s and 60s. So just a little less.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom and knowledge around that. I think it's going to help so many people. Like, just brilliant. Thanks for taking the time to level up today. If you're ready to commit to personal and professional growth, move forward, make money, and grow your health and fitness business, head to my free community on Facebook, Business Bootcamp for Fitness Coaches, so I can support you every step along the way. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and we'll see you right back here next week on Social Selling Simplified.